with you until I finish you. You know, I remember as a teenager in a prayer meeting one time, I was praying, and as a young Christian, I was thanking God for giving me life and giving me a new birth. And I was saying to God, I thank you for giving me a reason for living. And I praise you. I finally found a reason to live. Father, you've given me hope. You've given me salvation. You gave me a reason to live. And while I was giving thanks, do you know what happened? Right in the middle of my praise and prayer, a voice spoke to my mind, and it said, that's why I cannot use you yet. Because you have found something to live for. He says, now when you find something to die for, then I can do business with you. You know, that's the problem with life. People haven't found anything to die for. If you are not willing to die for what you're living for, then it's not worth living for. If you want to start a business, you believe that that is God's will and dream for your life. You see yourself owning a franchise, or maybe building a massive manufacturing plant, or maybe starting a production of some perfume or dress or clothes, fashion or something. Maybe you see yourself building a school for unwed mothers, or maybe establishing a daycare center for children. I don't know what it is. If you believe that's from God, and you go to the bank, and the first bank said no, so you quit and go back to your typing job, then really, you never had that dream in the first place. See, passion never takes no for an answer. Passion is created by purpose that is so strong that not even death could stop the urge. Can I suggest to you something that I believe is really the key to Paul's success? I want you to turn with me to the book of Romans. And what you're about to read is probably the most simple summary of Paul's principles of success for his life. If you want to be successful, follow these three principles you find here in Romans chapter 1. First of all, in verse 14, Paul expresses his passion and purpose. Number one, he says, I am obligated. Underline that statement. I am obligated. I am reading from the New International Version of the Bible. Everybody say obligation. Obligation. Paul says, I am not interested. I am not encouraged by others. I am obligated to preach to the Greek and to the Gentiles. Let me tell you something, friends. When you are obligated to do something, no one can stop you. Are you obligated to go to work? Or are you going to work because they're paying you a salary? Think about it. In other words, if what you're doing, you could stop doing and still be happy, you have not discovered your purpose yet. If you could change jobs and do something completely different and still be happy, you've not discovered your purpose yet. See, what you were born to do is the only thing that can satisfy you. And it's the only thing you are obligated to do. That means you are destined for this. My friends, that's what's wrong with life. People don't have any obligation in life. By the way, if you are obligated to finish something in life, then you don't quit until you finish. That's right. Which means obligation cancels retirement. A person who finds their obligation in life, their passion in life, their purpose in life, they never think of a rocking chair. They never dream of a golf course for the rest of their lives. They dream of dying with the words, "It is finished," on their lips. A person who have an obligation for what they're doing are not interested in long vacations. You know, when you have a passion for what you're doing, people have to remind you that it's time to eat. Oh, come on, you all say something to me. See, the problem is people are not living their purpose. That's why they don't have any passion. You know, Jesus was an awesome example of success. Matter of fact, the ultimate one. And look at Jesus. He said words like this: "For this cause came I into the world." Everybody say cause. Say it loud. Say it with feeling. Cause. Have you found yours yet? That's the question. You see, in other words, when he says, for this cause came I into the world, he was saying, this cause birthed me. What birthed you? That's the question. What is it that you discover that causes you to wake up in the morning? You know, people who find their purpose also talk like this. One day, Jesus, he was speaking and ministering to the people, and they spoke for a long time about the kingdom of God. And the people were with him for hours. And then he left them, and the disciples began to murmur among themselves, and they said, you know, he said that we must be careful about the leaven of the Pharisees. Maybe he's talking about lunch. And they thought Jesus was thinking about lunch, like most of you do when you go to work. People go to work at 9 o'clock and dream of lunchtime. They can't wait for the break. And when they come back from lunch, they dream of 5 o'clock. Why? Because they're not doing what they were born to do. They can't wait to get away from it. And they said to Jesus, is it because we haven't bought any lunch that you said we must be aware of the leaven of the Pharisees? And Jesus said something to them that I believe should change your life. He said, friends, why do you worry about lunch? Always thinking about food, you humans. He said, my meat is to do the will and the purpose of my Father. Until you find something more important than food, you haven't found your purpose yet. When a person has discovered their purpose, a passion rises up inside of them that keeps them away from even food. They don't even take vacations. You got to beg them to rest because they got a passion for living. When a person has found their purpose, they are strange. They have no working hours. Only people with jobs got working hours. People with purpose have no working hours. Then there's no punch clock for them. They go to work just when they wake up, and they stay to work until they fall down dead. I'm talking about it. I'm talking about one of them right here. And if you check all the great people of history, that's the way they lived. I mean, Paul, what a man. The guy preached all night until the guy fell out of the window and died. Paul went downstairs, healed the guy, raised him from the dead, put him back in the window, and kept on preaching. That's what I call passion. Passion. I saw Peter, a fisherman, who was bored on his job until he discovered his purpose. And when he discovered his purpose, they couldn't stop him. As a matter of fact, when he discovered his purpose, Peter told the Sanhedrin council, they said, we are going to cut your head off if you keep preaching. Peter says, well, I got a choice to make. He says, no, you got a choice to make. If you cut my head off, I'll preach. If you leave it on, I'll preach. What are you going to do? So they whipped him and put him in prison. What he did, he preached. When they let him out, he preached. They threatened him, he preached. They whipped him, he preached. They ran him out of town, he preached. They stoned him, he preached. You see, when you got purpose, nothing stops you. Because there's a passion that is stronger than death. The same Peter who was afraid at the resurrection became an invincible man when he received a revelation of who he was born to be. Give the Lord a hand for passion. You and I, we must discover something that makes us have a reason for living beyond death. You know, Martin Luther King was a great man. And like all people who discovered their purposes, he took on a spirit that was very difficult to handle. You know, people heard Martin Luther's testimony as he spoke from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial years ago, and that great speech he gave, I have a dream. How many of you have ever heard that dream? You ever heard it before? Isn't that a great speech? But do you know that the greatest message this man ever gave was not on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial? His greatest message was given in a small little church in Alabama that could only seat maybe a couple hundred people. And he was speaking at this church service, and I remember listening to that speech, and I said to myself, that's the greatest statement the man ever made. What was it? He stood before those people, and by this time, they had threatened to kill him all over the country. He knew that there were people out there who did not agree with his philosophy. But he was born to do what he was doing. And you could see it in his eyes. You could almost feel it in every word he said. And do you know the words that spoke from that man's heart that was an indication of his passion and purpose was this? He said, it doesn't matter anymore. Boy, that's a powerful statement. What are you waiting on? That's it. You see, you'll never change the world and impact your generation until you can say, it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they plan. It doesn't matter what they try. They can't stop me. Why? I'm already dead. When he said, it doesn't matter anymore, he became a dead man. How can you kill a dead man? I wonder if you found a dream that can cause you to say, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, that's how it is with me. What I was born to do is so clear. It's on paper. I got it all written down. I got my life in detail on paper for the next 50 years. That means about 95 years old, I should be around finishing everything. And do you know, that makes me very dangerous. Because it means your opinions are too late. If you threaten to kill me, you might as well shoot now. If you want to stop me, you might as well get all the armor you can. Why? Because I've discovered something more important than your threat. That's what purpose is all about. There's a passion for success. Success, therefore, has to have passion in it. If you could stop doing what you're doing and still be happy, you don't have any passion for what you're doing.